Today we're shining the spotlight on Janis Joplin and Cheap Thrills, the 1968 album she recorded with Big Brother and the Holding Company. Born in 1943 in Port Arthur, Texas, Janis Joplin lived 1,000 lives before her untimely death in 1970. Joplin began singing in high school after listening to her friend's collection of blues and folk records. In 1960, she went on to study for a while at Lamar State College of Technology and then the University of Texas at Austin, where she recorded her first song titled What Good Drinking Can Do. In January of 1963, Joplin left Texas. She hitchhiked to San Francisco, where she spent 2 years making music and using a lot of drugs. Her struggles with drug and alcohol addiction were so bad that her friends raised money for her bus fare to Texas and sent her home to her parents. Back in Port Arthur, Joplin began focusing on recovery. She enrolled at Lamar University and was even engaged for a short period. She would perform in Austin when she could, but was anxious about what a music career would mean for her addiction. She nevertheless returned to San Francisco in 1966 after Big Brother and the Holding Company, a psychedelic rock band, recruited her. Big Brother performed primarily in California while Joplin was with them. While the band was not wildly successful, Joplin's unique sound started generating buzz. She was known for her powerful voice and raw talent. A 1968 Vogue article dubbed Joplin the most staggering leading woman in rock. Around this time, Big Brother began working on Cheap Thrills, this album right here. This was the band's second album, but Joplin's first major studio recording. Despite her relative inexperience, Joplin was centrally involved in the album's arrangement and production. She also acted as the band's anchor. While her bandmates' performances were riddled with mistakes, Joplin was consistently stellar. Yet after a rocky recording progress, the album was essentially complete. The band just had to tackle the album cover. This is going to amaze you. Joplin first suggested that the band pose naked together in a bed. The resulting photos were awkward and uncomfortable. They did not capture the band's essence or their friendship. Then they enlisted the famous photographer Richard Avedon and walked away with highly editorial and produced photos. That didn't work. Band member David Getz felt that the photos were good, but more about Avedon than us. During a brainstorming session after their failed photo shoots, Getz suggested they enlist underground cartoonist Robert Crumb. Here we go. Otherwise known as R. Crumb. For their project, Joplin loved his work and insisted on being the one to reach out to him. Thus, the cover of Cheap Thrills was born. R. Crumb's work would go on to secure the number 9 spot on Rolling Stone's list of 100 greatest album covers. Much like its cover work, Cheap Thrills enjoyed a massive wave of success. It occupied the top spot on the Billboard charts for 8 weeks and was ultimately the most successful album of 1968. Now, the album single, Piece of My Heart, also became hugely popular and continues to be one of Joplin's most iconic songs. Although it is a studio album, Cheap Thrills has a deeply alive and spontaneous air about it, largely due to Joplin's gravelly voice with all of its depth and raw emotion. While the album received a mixed reaction from critics at the time, it has aged very well. Cheap Thrills sits at 372 on the Rolling Stones list of the 500 best albums ever. Cheap Thrills also served to launch Joplin's solo career. She departed from Big Brother a few months after the album's release, leaving the band. Joplin was once again in the throes of her heroin addiction. She was performing and making music, which culminated into 1971. Posthumously, she released an album called Pearl. She was deeply struggling. Joplin's passing in October of 1970, which happened not long after the deaths of Alan Wilson and Jimi Hendrix, deeply rocked the music world. Pearl reached number one, and I believe due to sympathy. It was on the Billboard Hot 200 chart, cementing Joplin's legacy as one of the greatest of all time. She was posthumously inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1995 and made Rolling Stone's list of the 100 greatest artists and singers of all time. Look, I was 7 years old when Janis Joplin passed away. I didn't know who she was at that age, and as my parents listened to too much different music, I probably heard her songs on the radio now and then, and I'm sure I didn't give it much thought. It wasn't until I reached my teen years that my ears perked up when she came on the radio. I was like, who is that? After I learned what she was all about and started studying her life, I found myself thinking what a terrifically chaotic life she lived. What a talented singer with such passion. Although her career was short, Janis Joplin made an indelible mark on the music world. Her unique sound, outlook, and talent cemented her as one of the rock and roll's most powerful icons with a dynamic legacy. Thank you for joining me today as we explored the story behind Cheap Thrills. Ironically, the next album we explore is about a woman who used to do covers of Janis Joplin before her rise to fame. Can you guess who that might be? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more deep dives into the legends of music. As always, remember to spin those albums loudly and proudly. We will see you again soon.